Shankar sir, you are also known for your contribution in disaster-resistant architecture. Can you please share it with your audience? How did this journey start?
Yeah, that's an interesting story. In fact, in 1984, Bhopal Gas Tragedy happened. None of you were there at that time. You were all born after that. 84. And as I told you, right during the school days, I was actually active with the popular science movement.
Yeah.
And we went in a train. The whole train was hired. And social activists from Kerala, we went all the way by train to Bhopal to shout slogans against Union Carbide factory. We raised slogans like Hatyari Carbide, Hatao, and things like that, on the streets of Bhopal. But later, a few months later, I was called by the government of India to do rehabilitation projects for the gas victims.
Okay.
Just for your information, more than around 1,000 people slept to death on a fateful evening in Bhopal. From the factory, poisonous gases leaked, and people who were, sleeping on the streets, they inhaled this toxic gas and they went to death. And my job was to rehabilitate them. It was a prestige project. I was still very young at that time, and prestigious project. I did around 400 buildings in the outskirts of Bhopal for gas victims. That actually again led me to interesting, like the chief minister at that time, who came to inaugurate the housing colony. He was fascinated by the quality of architecture of those small houses. He wanted a house for himself, a farmhouse for himself. And that was again going to be built in the outskirts of Bhopal. And I built a small farmhouse for the then Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh. This is something which is very important for you. Because same technologies that I used for the victims were used for the Chief Minister's house also. I don't segregate these things. Whatever I use for the common people, I use it for the richer people also. Because in India, technology actually percolates down. It never, it's always top-down kind of thing. Now in Bhopal, I did the farmhouse, and people who came, journalists, the press club of Bhopal, they came in numbers for the housewarming ceremony of the Chief Minister's farmhouse in the outskirts. Then I was asked to design a Patrakar colony in Bhopal. That's how your journey starts, And after Bhopal, I had the opportunity, rare opportunity, to work with all the disaster situations that had happened ever since 1984.
Oh.
In 1999, the super cyclone happened in Odisha, and I had built up a medical college. Right, actually the cyclone came through a place called Paradeep in Odisha, and I had built up a medical college. At that time, 99, I had already completed medical college using the same technologies that I'm talking about. And the cyclone, it came from the sea and hit one of the first buildings that was hit was the medical college that I had designed. Everything else was, devastated, and it sustained major damages. Not my medical college, which was built using cost-effective, sustainable building technology. It never, so that became a bit testimonial to the technologies that I'm talking about. And disasters are major opportunities. I wanted to use disasters as a vehicle to promote what I call as technology opportunities, to promote cost-effective technology, sustainable technology, using that opportunity, So I did that, and then I was called to strategize on the rehabilitation policies of Odisha. That was a great experience. Latest disaster happened in Uttarakhand. And there also, you know, all across Uttarkashi, Uttarakhand, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, I worked wherever disasters happened, I worked. In 2004, tsunami happened. And tsunami, I was all around the world. I worked with UN and World Bank and International Development Organization right across Asia, from Indonesia to Thailand to, I was there all over, Maldives to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, one of the largest rehabilitation effort that has ever taken place in the social history of the world. 95,000 houses we built in Sri Lanka, 95,000 houses. This particular project remains as the largest rehabilitation project that has ever been undertaken in the world, in the contemporary world. All using the same technologies and using the same template of technologies that I'm talking about. And Uttarakhand, a very short story to finish it off. Uttarakhand, I was actually in a traumatic condition. They diagnosed some major problems with my health and things like that. I was actually awaiting an operation. And when this call came from Uttarakhand, I went there and I flew above the disaster-struck area. And the chief minister actually called me one day. Second day after I went to Uttarakhand, I was not very familiar with Uttarakhand. I'd gone there once or twice, Dehradun, Haridwar and the rest of it, where I saw the devastations that happened. And I was called to the press meet. Suddenly, the chief minister introduced me as the person who is going to design the rehabilitation policy for Uttarakhand. And the media, I was not prepared, I was not prepared. And they asked me, the BBC, the correspondent, the battery of press people in front, they asked me to give, the first question that was fired at me was about, can you give me a one-liner strategy for rehabilitation of the affected people? One-liner strategy? I was unprepared, I told you. I thought for a minute. I had a meditative contemplation. And then I said, look, this is a holy land, Uttarakhand, it's a holy land. You have to tread on it softly. Then the volley of questions started, What do you mean by that? What do you mean by Uttarakhand being a holy land? And why do you say that you have to tread on it softly? I said, look at the geology. Look at the soil profile of Uttarakhand. It doesn't have clay. It has only sand, volcanic sand. If you want to build on volcanic soil, you have to be careful. You have to be very careful about the architectural strategies, the design strategies. You have to be very careful about the structure. So that is how I led that conversation. Wherever you go, such questions can come back to you. You have to be prepared for that. You have to brace for that. I'm telling you, so you have to have a basic knowledge about the soil, you have to have a basic knowledge of services, you have to have a basic knowledge of structures. You have to be confident if you are trying to talk about technologies. Disaster technologies, I'll come for a minute before I conclude on this, I told you disasters are opportunities to push in. One of the questions that continuously people keep on asking to me is about the strength and validity of the technology. People have a notion that the technologies that we are trying to promote are less strong, less durable, and less long-lasting. They say that there's limited life. Through my buildings, this one thing, I made it mandatory, what I call as habitat literacy, to tell people that these technologies, these design strategies are as strong, as durable, as long-lasting as any other conventional technology. Once that is something that you need to fight, all the time. If that faith comes in the technologies, then the rest of it is history. Yeah, thank you.